Okay, we're recording again. I don't know whether. So, welcome to the Raised Hunting Podcast. Take two.
This is take two because in case we don't have it, or we just blew a breaker with our little heater.
Yeah.
And everything went down.
So anyhow, it's minus 30 something here today, wind chill factor. It's like minus 10. And we're trying to accommodate the fact that we're building a new podcast booth. So hopefully next week we'll be into our new podcast booth. So we're temporarily in this situation. So we asked for you guys to bear with us, but we had no intentions or no idea that we were just about to have everything go down. What just kicked on? Because I just got
the heater. Or the furnace that's not blowing heat.
Oh, because I just got hit with a bunch of air.
Yeah, it's just air. It's just AC and negative 10 degrees.
That's good. All right. So anyhow, long story short, we were summarizing the fact that last week we talked about some shed hunting. Next week we've got a buddy coming or a guest coming that is, I don't know if there's a professional shed hunter, but
He's it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not necessarily quantity, it's quality, the sheds that he's picked up.
In places he goes everywhere.
Yeah.
He's really good. So if you guys do have questions or anything, in case you didn't get the last part when I already said it, but go on the website, click contact us, submit a podcast request. Anything you want to know about shed hunting, whether it's a tactic, if you guys have a specific story you want to ask about or whatever it is. But this would be a good time to go write a question in if you have something for sheds. And he is a friggin' legend when it comes. I mean, he's going to be bringing some cool stuff.
Yeah, he's bringing. He asked me which did I want him to bring a couple, and I mentioned anything over 80 because, as you guys know, we have this none of us have ever found an 80-inch shed. We've killed several deer that have 80-inch sides. It's crazy to think that we've now lived in Iowa for 13 years, and all of them, we've killed all the ones that were 80-inch sides. We've never found one. We've never had one drop.
You guys have even found the other side.
Yeah, so of deer that we knew.
If you found the other side of that one, it would have been 80. But
yeah, we've hit 76. There was a deer I found 76, and we knew for a fact the other side was roughly 10 inches bigger.
Or last year, the neighbor steals two that are 8 or one that's over 8.
They didn't steal them. They fell on his side. So
I know, but I knew the day that deer shedded, I had dropped a good amount of money in the amount of bales I was taking out there. He was... Anyways.
And he sent his wife out to pick them up.
At least we got to measure them.
Yeah. So anyhow, long story short is shed hunting last week, shed hunting next week. But this week, we're going to talk a little bit about generational hunting. And kind of...
It's a generational battle. Don't let him sugarcoat it. Yeah. Because I'm going to roast him.
Not even close. But anyhow, we'll see what happens here. So hopefully there's some of you out there that are either Generation X or Generation Z or millennials. We're going to talk a little bit about all of them, how it's affected hunting. And we got a few specific questions that we're going to direct the podcast toward. But before we do that, Easton has got, and I do need to apologize, Warren is not here. I didn't even mention it.
Well, this is our take 2 or 3 here.
Right. So anyhow, long story short, just Easton and I this week. That's okay. You got a couple housekeeping things?
I got a story and I've got a question.
All right.
First one is from Chris Wester. He says, saw several bucks on camera, 2 real good bucks. My son shot a really nice 10. Second week of gun season in Western New York, this guy shows up with 9 does. Never been on camera all year, just looking for love. Took him down with a Remington 783 in a 243 cartridge with a Burris E1 scope. Not at all my biggest, but very, very respectable. Also, first year I tagged out in my 40 years of deer hunting, 6 total. Second pick is my son's buck as well. Sounds like you had a heck of a season.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, good job. Man, they kill 6 just deer or 6 bucks, do you think that is?
I bet 6 deer. I bet he killed a couple does in there.
Yeah. Heck yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, the next one is kind of funny. It's a question. This one is from Aaron Wickman. He said, listening to the podcast and watching the hunting show, I know your family has lived in multiple states. My question is, would it be worth a 50-year-old man to move to a new state to hunt big white-tailed
deer?
Hold on though, because it gets interesting. I currently live in Ohio. I have harvested a few big deer, 140s for the area. My problem is that because Ohio is over-the-counter state, I have lost so many properties to out-of-state leases, including my own family properties. So is this something I should push for to try to make the dream become reality? I know it is a huge step in any person's life. Thanks for your time and love the show and the podcast, Aaron. Well, you're the 50-year-old, so.
All right, Aaron. So it's kind of a loaded question, I guess. I'm wondering, I'm trying to, like, did I move because of deer?
Yeah. Well, and maybe not all the other times, but the last time you did. The reason we are in Iowa is because of deer.
No.
Oh, yes, it is. No. Yes, it is.
Well, yes and no. The whole reason that we moved from Montana to Iowa is because my desire was to be able to walk out my door and go hunting. I always wanted to own my own piece of ground and be able to own a piece of ground that I could hunt. I didn't want to own a yard. And that was like, that's been my thing from a kid. I mean, I can show you, I can remember drawing my first photos. Now, one of the photos that I always drew when I was a little kid was this house, and then there was big mountains in the background. Well, we lived in Montana, and I had that. The problem, we probably would not have moved from Montana, the last place we were, had there been animals where we were. Because
you guys could hunt like you were hunting your elk and everything.
Yeah, we only owned 10 acres, but we were in the middle of millions of national forest acres. And had there been a plethora of elk and deer and things like that, and abundance of wildlife in that area, heck no.
I would agree with that.
We probably wouldn't have gone anywhere. But envision, the best way I could describe it is, imagine if you were a surfer. If that is what you did, that was what you loved to do, and you lived on a lake. You know, there's no wave, you know, so what do you, I mean, you live right on the water, but it ain't the right kind of water, you know, so you got to be where that is. So with that being said, Ohio, and I hear what he's saying is that, okay, even though he's in Ohio, he's recognizing there are some big deer there, but he doesn't have the access to them. I would caution you to be careful, because I wouldn't want someone to think, well, if I move to Iowa or Illinois or Indiana or Kansas or wherever it is that you're thinking that you would want to move, I don't know that it's just going to open it up to you're going to have a place to hunt. That's probably not going to be the case. However, you'll find somewhere to hunt regardless of where you live.
I think this is I don't want to shoot down his dreams, because if you want to come here, more power to you. But I think we're probably going to end up talking about this a little bit. I think this is a misconception of he could just move here and your caliber automatically goes up in deer. It very well could, but at the same time, I don't know finances. I don't know what he can afford, because it ain't just going to go up by just moving here. It's going to go up. Your caliber could go up, because I still don't even know his caliber of deer. If you shoot 140-inch deer pretty consistently, it ain't small. Right. But you come here, if you're expecting just to come here and just show up somewhere, that's maybe 50-50 if you get a good spot. If you're going to come try to buy a piece of land, it's pretty much everything's freaking ridiculously expensive, which I know it is just about everywhere. But, I mean, you're talking $300,000-$400,000 for maybe 20 acres. That is, I mean, okay. Land.
Well, it depends.
So then, but then you're looking for a lease, maybe. If you're looking for a lease, those are hard to come by, especially good ones. And then permission is honestly your best bet, in my opinion, because you can get a lot more of it than you can trying to lease or buy ground. But you're going to be grinding, and you're also going to be moving somewhere based on going to hunt something that everybody else can hunt too. I mean, that's, I don't know. I mean, and if you have the ability to, or the patience and the ability to want to buy some ground, like kind of how you did it, and then continue to build, I would say maybe it is worth it. If you are just trying to kind of move here or somewhere else that has bigger deer and hope that you get bigger deer, I mean, I would try to be doing some more research. You're in Ohio. You're not too far away. Maybe make some scouting trips to see if you can find some areas that, like, okay, I would live in this area, because I think that there's not as much pressure, because there's a lot of pressure in Iowa too for non-res, even though it's harder to get here. But I just think that's it's kind of surprising me, actually, for Ohio too.
So here's what I guess I would tell someone like this is you got to compare apples to apples. So if you own no acres and you're going to move here and own no acres, that would be a even swap, right? Is it going to be better because there's less hunters because Iowa is a draw and things like that? Probably. There's probably definitely some factors in there. And I will say this, of the 4 states that I've lived in, Iowa does the best at managing for big animals.
Yep.
Some states manage for numbers and some manage for just hunter opportunity. Iowa truly understands that a big deer is going to drive people to spend more money and more people want to come here and hunt and things like that. And so they've always catered kind of to that. So,
Yep.
So there's a positive on that side. Is it magical that you're going to, if you don't have any ground there, you're going to be able to afford ground here? I don't know that, but let's just say you own 100 acres there and 100 acres here, 100 acres there, and you're killing 140-inch deer consistently. If you stayed in the southern tier of Iowa and you owned 100 acres of your own ground, you're probably going to have the opportunity to kill some deer a little bigger than 140. Mm-hmm. So that's how I would have to. I don't know all his specifics. I would have to tell you to compare, even money before you make that decision, because that is a big decision, especially if you're married, you got kids. And don't get me wrong, we've had a few people that moved here after seeing what we had done with the television show, but mine, as much as Easton, he thinks he's right that we moved here specifically for deer. There was a lot of other factors that all came together as well, because Mom had her work and stuff like that. And if we didn't have all of that, we probably couldn't have moved here. But the number one factor for me was the fact that I could not own a piece of ground in Montana. I could not afford to, let me put this, because there's ground out there that's cheap. I mean, there's still
literally worthless.
Yeah, but it's worthless. And so in order to live on your own ground, you'd have to live far away from a town. And at that point, the internet was not what it is today. Mom could not work and I could not work that remotely. We had to be somewhere where we were able to go to an office and things like that. So it didn't work. You move here and you have the opportunity to, we're 16 miles out of town or 14 miles out of town. And it was like being, we're not in town, we're not in a city, but yet we could commute to where she needed to go to do her work, and I could do the same, but yet we were able. And so that was what we were looking for, was that intermediate type thing. And it worked out. And so, we have 3 pieces of ground now, still not thousands of acres. We're just 170 acres all together, added together. And it's if you've never owned ground before, 170 acres can be a lot of work. There's a lot to it to take care of it. You don't just get to have it. And
he's not even farming.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's just got to be careful. Make sure you're looking at all things. I agree with maybe the best thing that Easton did say there was make some trips. Go look at what you're looking at. Look at the where you're looking at moving and that kind of thing before you make a decision like that. All right. Was that it? You got done with that?
Yep.
So there you got a answer from Gen X and you got an answer from Gen Z. I guess that's what you're called, right? Generation.
That we determined? Yeah. Gen Z.
Gen Z.
I hear a lot of bad things about them on the news.
So, and I didn't write them all down, but I can tell you, so there's one in between us. That's the millennials. That's where Warren falls.
Is, yeah.
However, you and Warren are only 5 years apart, and the split is right between you guys, like 97, 98. And because Warren was born in 95, you were born in 2000. I was born at the kind of in the middle of the Gen X. I was born in 68. So, for those of you
Once I realized that you weren't a baby boomer, I realized that your generation doesn't get talked about at all. Gen X.
We were too busy working.
It's like you hear about baby boomers and everything, and then you hear about how terrible Gen Z is.
Well, that's just because the baby boomers came after the war, in World War II.
Right, hence the reason.
Is everything that goes 80s fat. You hear more about it in the pop culture than you do in the actual full discussion of the generation.
So, I just don't think Gen X has done anything for our country or anything. But anyways, I'm totally
so
kidding.
just so that you guys know, he's trying to bait me, and it ain't gonna work. So anyhow, I have a few questions. I'll start with the first one. Why are Generation X better hunters? And I answered it. I even wrote it out because we had to teach ourselves. Therefore, we had to learn actually by trial and error. There was no redo on a screen, So let's talk about that. Let's talk about in the generation that you grew up in and the family that you grew up in. We've been doing this since the inception, meaning you were born into hunting. Yeah. Which is a downfall in some regards. Some might say you never had a chance.
I never had a chance to what? Not hunt?
Maybe you were going to be the greatest piano player ever, but we told you put this bow in your hand and get out in the backyard and shoot that something.
I'll take the bow. I'm grateful for that.
Well, you never know.
What is the difference though for us? Because I think that could go both ways with what you're referring to. How you guys had to learn it all.
Okay, what do you mean by that then?
You guys had to learn it all, trial and error, which made you good at, number one, figuring something out, or you never figured it out. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that probably still haven't figured it out. But now, yes, I will agree. There is so much information at your fingertips, and it's so easy to get information about literally anything you want. The problem with it is 10 times harder now to be able to, I've got to the point with the coyote hunting stuff because I've tried to learn coyote hunting based off of that because I only have so many people I know personally that are doing it. And I've tried to do or watch YouTube videos and listen to podcasts and everything else, and it all gives me information. But every single dude has a different opinion. There's a lot of them that probably shouldn't be giving any opinion. And then I'll go do certain things, and I'll look back on later, I'm like, you're an idiot. You've been hunting your whole life, and this was very simple. I mean, just because I'm hunting a different species of something, I overthought it because I thought that I could learn from somebody else who was further ahead of me because I've always been the one to listen to coach type of deal. And so I think it can be a fault, too, because there's a lot of bad information. I think there's probably 3 or 4 times more information out there that is going to hurt you as opposed to finding the really, really good information that can genuinely benefit you. And so I think it can set people back as well, or get in their heads to where they can't break out of this pattern of, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, versus you guys were in a mode of, I'm going to try this. It didn't work. Okay, I'm going to try it one or two more times. Still didn't work. Okay, I'm going to do something else. And I'm going to try that. And then I'm going to try this. Well, that one kind of worked, so let me try a variation of that. And versus us, we're going to be like, oh, well, let's go back to YouTube. I tried this, and it didn't work, so now what? And so you go into some other crap, and if you're cognizant enough as a young person to be able to say, hey, that's holding me back, you'll go start figuring it out yourself. And that's when you're going to become even better. But if you're not, you sit there, and you're probably just going to spin your wheels until maybe you get lucky on something.
See, I go back to I've tried to remember, and I can't, it's just been too long. We're talking roughly 40 years ago would have been like the start of my bow hunting. Okay. And what I'm trying to remember, like the first doe I shot, did I even take the wind into account? I don't know. I can't honestly say because what I can say is I didn't have anyone telling me, you better take the wind into account. My uncles and everyone gun hunted. That's what I grew up, everyone gun hunted. And so they didn't take any kind of wind into account. They went and sat in a spot where they could see the best through the timber. And that's where and then when they were over on that ridge, you shot them, or they were coming up you knew, I think what I learned from them was funnels, or what put deer somewhere, meaning like you knew the farm ground, they ate there. And you knew the timber was where they were coming back to. So then you worked everything between there. it was years before I figured out what a white oak tree did to it was totally by accident. So the way that I found, so someone today, a new generation person you could hit Google and say, what do deer eat, or good natural food sources, and a white oak acorn is going to come up. I found out that deer liked white oak acorns because my mom made me pick up all the acorns off of our deck. That they would fall, and we had 20 of them in our yard, and I loaded them into 5-gallon buckets. And so I was like, well, I think deer eat these. So, and where I'm hunting, there's white oak acorns. So I just went out there and slung more white oak acorns out there, just basically getting rid of them. Next thing I know, I got a whole bunch of deer. I was like, man, that was fun. And it wasn't like, it didn't hit me that day. It was like a week later. I'm like, I wonder if, you know what? I'm going to go back and get another bucket of those things and see if
Grandma was probably loving life. She's like, he's keeping this porch so clean.
So I'm picking them up on purpose and throwing them out there. And sure enough, lots of deer come in. And so later, now, was I baiting? I guess you could consider, I don't even know.
Was that even a thing back then?
I don't know. I don't remember whether it was legal, is enhancing the natural stuff baiting. I honestly have no clue whether what I was doing was wrong or not. I didn't shoot a deer from there, but I learned that the deer love the white oak acorn.
Yeah.
And later on when I moved to Arkansas, I found the same thing kind of happened with a persimmon tree. We couldn't figure out why these deer were all underneath this persimmon tree, but only for 3 or 4 days. But in 3 or 4 days, we didn't have a trail camera back then, so we had to physically see them there. But had we had a trail camera, you would have been able to instantly go, something has changed here, because there's a whole bunch of deer at this camera, and a week before it was one every few days.
Yeah.
And that's not the case anymore. So anyhow, my point is that I do think that the learning aspect, though, from you can say, I guess I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone. I'm just saying what it does when you have to learn it the way that I had to learn it. I don't want to say it means more, but it meant a ton, because you really had you didn't have anything to compare to say, this is going to be successful. I'm going out there basically every day with a shot in the dark. And what you were hoping for is every time that you took a shot in the dark, that you got something, so it wasn't so much of a shot in the dark the next time.
Yeah.
And so I think then that means that you are more inclined to pay attention to the little tiny details, as opposed to now. I think people blow through the details. They get the they go Google white oak acorn. Okay, I'll need to find a white oak tree, and they might look at a leaf, and then that's it. They don't understand that there's 10, 12, 15 different subspecies of white oak acorns, and they find the leaf and they find the tree, but it ain't got no acorns on it because it's the wrong kind, or it's not producing the same kind, that sort of thing. It was just so different. I mean, we lived in a little tiny bubble. I look back and I'm like, this is nuts, man. I mean, it was, we didn't hear about world records, and we didn't hear about 200-inch deer.
Don't go to your next topics.
I'm not going to.
You're supposed to stay focused, because what is the first topic technically? It's about...
Technically is why we're better hunters, and I think detail. If I had to sum it up, I would say that's the thing about my generation is, number one, I can't qualify for everyone, but I know the appreciation that a Gen Xer has for what they have is huge, because you had to bust your ass to get where you've gotten.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to have that in every generation.
Absolutely.
And that's just a matter of, well, if you look at my generation, they ain't even old enough yet to get to the point of I've done it kind of thing yet to be able to say, I appreciate what I have built in my life. But I would disagree with the hunting factor of that, because there's a handful of guys that are in your generation that are known. There's a good amount, I would say, probably 10 to 15, that are known by name almost, of just being great hunters at something specifically. There is producing a lot more you just don't hear about as many of them of our age that is going and doing crap on public and on private and on permission and going and doing these crazy freaking hunts super consistently all the time without that much money and continually producing unreal success when it comes to hunting. But now you just see everybody's success. And so, I mean, we've had 2 or 3 of them on the podcast that nobody's probably ever heard of, but the dudes have killed 170, 180 inch deer every year, and one of them doesn't even own an acre. And you just don't hear about that from the older generation. The only guys that are doing that are dudes that have 1,000 acres or that have worked their butts off to have land. And so I think that there's a comparison to be made of how well the younger generation has adapted and is actually doing extremely well at their form of hunting versus the old school, I have to own a whole bunch of land. That's my goal in life.
I don't think that that's everyone's goal. And here's the other thing is that you say, okay, so, and we've had a couple guys come on and they're younger and yeah, they've killed some big deer. I'll guarantee.
Not just some, every single year.
Okay.
And
but
they don't even know about them before. They go find them.
And you know why you don't know about the Gen Xers that are doing that or have done that?
Because half of them ain't doing it.
No. The part they're not doing, they ain't on social media.
That's my point. These guys aren't either.
Well, that's how we found them. Yes,
Warren
they are.
knew him personally.
No, he didn't. He knew him personally because he saw a photo of him on social media, and that's what started a conversation. The Gen Xer doesn't do that because he doesn't give whether you know whether he killed that deer or not. And here's the other thing. He knows that if someone finds out about it, there's a good chance he's not killing another one next year, so he ain't taking that chance.
There's
keep
a lot
that to
of
himself.
people that would argue your generation literally started the social media wars and everything because of everybody. Yeah, you're one of them. You started a TV show.
Yeah, but
that is all of them.
This is like I started.
All the dudes that are really good in that generation that everybody knows about have had a TV show at some point.
No.
Have had some kind of large social media at some
Not
point.
true.
Or the only one that is older has absolutely freaking whacked every world record possible is what's his nuts. He also had a show. We've talked about him like 8 times.
Chuck Adams.
Yeah, he has some. Or he has quite a few, actually, doesn't he? There's somebody else I was thinking about. But every one of them has some kind of social media presence. No. And yes.
No, those are just the ones you know. I can think of a guy, I know of a guy right now that does not have a TV show, never had a TV show. He will triple probably the number of animals that I've killed with a bow and arrow.
And he has social media.
He has social media. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't conform at some point to some of it, but what they share on there or what they are accomplishing and stuff like that or how they're doing it, they may not be sharing. So you just because you think that you know everyone that look at what everyone is doing, you just know it because those are the ones that are telling you. And just like saying that just the all the good hunters have TV shows, no way.
No, I don't agree with that, but I'm saying that anybody that knows a name about anybody right now is from the older generation. And I think that there's probably twice as many that are doing it consistently that are younger than 50 years old.
I don't know how to collect that data to know whether that's a true statement or not. So I can't argue that.
Fair enough.
So, but anyhow, no way, shape or form. One thing that I think the Gen Xers probably
you could look at how many more world records in size deer have been killed in the past 10 years versus your guys' generations.
Well, let's look at it.
But it could also be both generations harvesting them within the past 10 years.
Well, how long has Milo Hansen's record stood now? 20 years?
I think it's longer than that, isn't it?
I can't remember what year he killed it, but I mean, we're talking, no one's beat that.
I'm referring to the amount of 200s that are being killed in places and everything in the past 10 years versus the past 30 has been significantly higher.
Do we know that?
That's what I was just reading the other day about. Ding Dong did a statistic in the books.
What's his name?
Yeah, Cameron.
We need to have him on here because I would like to know, because again, I'll go back to this. the only reason where is he getting his information? He's getting information from the book. How many people have entered?
Exactly.
So maybe they simply are doing a better job of advertising and gotten more people to enter them. And there's a whole bunch that were killed. Nobody ever entered them. I have got 50 to 75 probably Pope and Young animals. There's just not one single one in a record book.
Yeah.
Never entered a one. I'll guarantee you there's a whole lot of guys just like me and gals.
I would imagine, though, the ones that are over 200, 220 and stuff have a much higher chance of being entered into something.
I don't think so. Why?
Because they actually have a recognition to be had. You shoot 126-inch deer. Yeah, it's Pope and Young, but
I can't speak
what is
for
your goal?
Because I can tell you this. I can't speak for all the Gen Xers, but the whole reason that I'm there to hunt that deer and kill that deer, and when I do accomplish that, ain't got nothing to do with a record book. Absolutely nothing. So it wouldn't do me any good or any benefit to put it in the record book. I don't care. I want to know, and like I keep telling everyone, the main reason that I talk about scores and ages and stuff is I want to know. If you tell me you saw a 10-point buck, I don't know what you saw. If you tell me you saw a 150-inch 10-point buck, I got a good idea what you saw. And if you tell me you saw what you think is a 7 or 8 year old 150-inch deer, now I really got a good idea what you saw. So that's the whole purpose. And I think maybe that's who we are. That it wasn't because there wasn't a recognition thing back then, so we didn't care. You weren't doing it for recognition. You were doing it because it was a chess game. You're playing with that deer. And I can't even say that deer because back then where I lived and where I hunted was deer in general. I wasn't hunting one deer. I didn't have the opportunity to do that. I was hunting public ground and you weren't passing nothing. You were shooting whatever you got an opportunity at.
All right. So considering the fact that you're never going to be able to determine whether one generation is better than the other because you're going to be biased here, let's get to the actual topics of sections of the difference in what your generation had versus our generation.
All right. So one of the first ones that we had was technology. And
they're way different.
Huh?
Way different.
Oh, yeah. Huge difference. And I think there's some good and some bad on both sides of that, for sure.
So some of the big differences, I think key ones that would be obvious. Number one, we have a cell phone that's in our hand that has tons of information.
It's not a cell phone. It's a computer.
Yes. So you have things like Onyx that takes things that were old school mapping and everything and now puts it into, now you don't have to, you don't even, a lot of people nowadays probably wouldn't even know how to legitimately read a map or how to navigate through the wilderness with a map. But so you have Onyx that gives you 10 times more information. You have apps, whether it's ones that are predicting movement or pressure or whatever else. You have weather apps. You have cell cams that are, not only have we gone from never having a single thing on a tree that could take a photo to now you have ones that you don't even have to go check that send it to you. And we're purposely, for anybody listening, not going into the weapons or the gear specifically yet. So that's a different type of technology. But what else am I missing there that we have now?
And I think we'll save the gear and equipment because but the technology, and again, so when you say, okay, well, look at all these young guys that are killing these deer now and they're doing it consistently, is it because they're being aided by that technology that the same guy that's 50 years old didn't have? So it's sort of like, okay, we're going to kick a 70-yard field goal now. Well, is it that this kid's leg is bigger or better or anything like that? Or is it that the technology of the football and the field and all this that's playing, things changed, and so are we comparing apples to apples?
Didn't you already bring the football thing up? Was that on the podcast one time or were you just talking about it?
I don't know.
Because I'm pretty sure that a football technology has not advanced far enough for a kicker to be kicking 15, 20 yards past what records used to be broken.
So you think that it's their ability
development
to kick?
in the athleticism?
I think it's both.
I think this is very similar to, or that is, we're not even going to get onto that. Never mind. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But you're referring to the fact that what we have now is going to make it a lot easier for us to do a good job at something. Hunting.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't go quite that far. I would say that what is available now makes it easier to do something. I'm not saying that just because it's easier to do that it's going to be done better.
I think it makes it a lot easier to access, but it also, or to have access to certain things. I think it also has freaking ruined your opportunity to have your spots that you've done the research for, you've put in the miles to, you've known somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, that you have this one spot. Literally anything is out in the open now. The chances of you finding something where you're hunting some little honey hole, unless you're way out west where you know that nobody else is just physically going to walk that far or go that far, the chance of you finding something that nobody else knows about now is pretty much less than zero, which means the pressure in which you're dealing with in a lot of places, especially if you're ever successful at something, whether you post it on social media or not, is unreal. So I think that you deal with a great benefit of being able to find all these places, whether it's land, public, private, who owns the private, because you may not have been able to do that previously, and be able to go get permission or whatever else. But now it doesn't matter what you do. You are like no matter where you're at, you're in a spotlight. Even if it's a little spotlight in that neighborhood or whatever, everybody knows when something happens in that spot, in that area, which makes it 10 times harder to be able to ever keep that secret that you guys always talk about, that I've argued with you and Warren about when you guys find that spot, that it's yours, or you feel as the entitlement to it. You don't get that anymore, not one bit. So now you almost have to be a better hunter in certain aspects, because you have to be able to out-hunt the other hunter next to you, which you would have to deal with in some situations in your guys' generation. But that was still in a time where you could, if you knew what you were doing, to be able to go get plat maps or whatever you were doing, or to be able to go find a public place that nobody else knew about because you drove far enough or something, you could keep it secret.
100%.
And you could have a spot that you didn't have to out-hunt everybody else.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you to an extent. The one place that I would tell you that maybe because there's also the physical aspect. Can you get there? I don't know that there's many places in the United States where whitetail deer are going to fall into that category, meaning that it's so physically difficult for someone to get to the whitetails there that only a few people are going to go. But yes, what you're referring to is exactly what I was mentioning before. It paid off if you just busted your ass. Meaning if you went to the Fish and Game place and you pulled up a map, or you knew how to call and order topo maps. I mean, back then it wasn't like you would find there was a map place that you could go and they would sell them to you, and then you would look at them right there and say, I want this one. And you could get them to zoom in to a certain point and that kind of thing. And then you'd have that and you carried that with you, and then you'd mark that. Well, no one else had access to that. You didn't know if other people were buying that map. It's not like the dude at the map store was then going, hey man, are you in here looking for hunting stuff? Because there was a dude in here a little bit ago and let me show you the map he got. They didn't do that. Everyone understood what it was.
That would suck.
Well, I'm trying to remember what they were called, but you would go to a place where they made maps. But I don't think it was called a map store. I'm trying to remember. I don't know what. I think I do recall some of them you could get, like BLM would have their own, Bureau of Land Management, Fish and Game.
Most of the time you called, or we grew up in the one in Great Falls.
Yeah,
and me and Warren, we probably didn't learn a dang thing, but they had the freaking maps that were 10, 15 feet long by 10 feet up, and you roll the dial and you could go through all the different places and everything.
And then they were corded off, and so you would say, okay, I want this map. And they were like $5 a piece. So you were not only were you investing time, you were investing money into the situation. But typically, like you said, it paid off because you could find a place that other people could not find. Or not that they couldn't, but if you were outworking everyone, you were outworking everyone. Now, for me, that became super physical when we lived out west, because there were times when I stood on a mountain and I was like, I'm not going over there. Nobody goes over there. That just is not possible. Now, I trained until I could go over there. Then what ends up happening is you get over there and you find out, well, there was another way to come in and that I had no idea unless I had driven all the way around this mountain. And I'm not talking about a mile or two. I'm talking 50 miles to find out that, oh, there was a way that these guys bring their horses in, and but you had to figure that out. Now I can pull that up on my phone, look at OnX, and see, all right, it's 2.5 miles from this. It'll tell me that trail is open to this, and this, motorbikes and all that kind of stuff. So you could save yourself a crap ton of time. So the technology, I don't want to sit here and act like as a Gen Xer that technology's all bad, because I would be a huge hypocrite if I was sitting here saying that. But it can get in the way. It can make it more difficult. If it's making it easier for you, it's making it easier for everyone else too.
Yep.
And so basically, the guy that was really looking to outwork everyone, and that's how I'm going to be successful.
Really hard to do that.
Brought everyone to that point.
Yep.
And then what happens is that dude is probably not real tech savvy. Someone comes along that's even more tech savvy. He goes right on past this dude, because this guy knows how to use things, put things into folders on OnX, and his is all cleaned up where mine is a big pile of, I got a whole bunch of pins. And then at some point you're going, is it really worth it? Is it really worth doing all of this for that? Where does it stop? Where does the technology, how do I want to find my way in and out of the woods and stuff? I mean, and I'm not saying that, but I do. Like the other day you guys made a comment and I was like, I guess that is me. I don't like to turn on a flashlight. Mm-hmm. But it's hard for me to break, because I never wanted it on, because I can see all my landmarks in the dark without a flashlight. I can see the things around me. I know roughly where I'm going. Even if I don't know exactly where I'm going, I know that ridge is to my right. And that can be whitetail deer hunting going to a tree stand, or it can be out in the mountains and I got 10 miles to go. But the moment I turn on a light, I am now here. Yeah, that's all I can see.
You're disoriented.
Right. And so then I have to rely on my phone or a compass or some piece of technology to help me move through here to get there. And that I don't like that. Whether it's bad or whether it's good or bad doesn't matter. I don't like it.
That's where a piece of technology could help you too, because I just dropped my stubbornness, because every time people would hunt with me, they were asking me why I wouldn't use a light. And I don't have an issue seeing at night. It's not that difficult for me. But I never knew why. I was like, I guess how I was raised. I don't know. My dad never used a light, so I just don't use a light. And I don't like to. And I hated if I don't use a light and somebody else has a light. Then it really screws with me.
Oh yeah, because now your eyes dilate.
That would really piss me off. But then Warren, it was Warren or no, I started with I could walk around at night with Krista or something sometimes with a green light, and none of the animals would see us. Like none of the coons would run away or anything. The rabbits would sit there. I mean, I've seen deer most of the time that don't really care all that much. And I'm like, oh, well, if I have a green light and the headlamp that we use, the last light ones, I can walk at night and it does not adjust my vision at all. Yeah. And I just have a better illuminated right in front of me. So to me, it just makes more sense to have a little bit of light. But that's a preference thing. Maybe you guys didn't have green lights back then. I don't know.
I don't know when they started coming out with them. So, because I didn't use one, so I just didn't look for them.
Yeah. Okay. So the mapping and stuff, I think, is a lot. That specifically has become a lot easier, and has for each person made hunting easier as far as they have access and can read it much easier and understand it. As far as just being the hunter that's trying to do the work, it's kind of hard to outwork people when you don't have to do much to get the information that you used to have to work hard for. And so I think that that almost makes it more difficult this day and age, because you do have the amount of people that, and unfortunately people are followers, so they swarm to where success is had. And unless you've got a way to keep your mouth shut, not only keep your mouth shut, make sure the landowner keeps his mouth shut, and make sure your brother keeps his mouth shut and everybody else, your girlfriend keeps her mouth shut, it's almost impossible to keep anything under wraps anymore, especially with the amount of cameras and stuff that are out there that people knew about a deer and can have a good idea that it's not there anymore.
Yeah, I think the days of killing a world record or, that no one had a picture of is gone.
Yeah, we've talked about that multiple times, and I tend to agree with that. I like to hope that it's not a thing, that somebody's going to kill something that's like, ooh, nobody had anything.
It may still happen out west. There may be,
well,
that's getting more rare.
I don't know. I feel like elk is still going to have a chance of, depending on where you're at, but like elk and stuff, how many dudes are really running cameras for elk? I know people are doing it more, but
that's not a cell camera. It's a spotting scope with a camera on that, and they're able to look
I guess that's true.
7, 8, 9 miles back and zoom in on them and take a photo.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least figure out that he's there and then move into a place where they can get a photo from the same thing. They don't have to get near him.
Yep.
They can get a mile away and get a pretty good video or photo.
I didn't think of that. All right, what's our next one?
Access, good or bad, and we're not talking about the maps access. I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit though, but like getting permission and things like that, because I think it has changed.
I think this goes into states too, as far as in the Gen X is going out of state. Maybe it wasn't even a thing that you talked about. Some people did, some people didn't. I don't know. But how hard is it compared to then to now, of how hard it is to go out of state? And then also, yes, we're talking about whether you want to buy land, permission, public, things like that.
And I think that for me, it's without a doubt, I mean, we're not rich now, but I have more money than I had when I was 25 years old. So when I'm in the 80s, I'm just out of high school or I only went to college for a year. As some of you heard, I quit drinking in 1998. Well, up until then, I drank a whole lot. So that included a 1-year stint at I was a mountaineer at West Virginia University, and I chose that college because Sports Illustrated had them as the number one partying school in the nation. So that's how I made my decision. But anyhow, long story short, it just so happened that there was good hunting in West Virginia. And so where I was going to school, I got with some guys and I could go hunting. I also realized really quickly that I had no clue what I was doing. These guys were already farther ahead of me, meaning as far as shooting a bow and stuff, I met the first guy that I could hit a tennis ball at 20, 25 yards every single time. I mean, he was hitting a dot, and I couldn't do that. But what I'm looking at back then is access-wise, we just drove out to public land, and we didn't run into anybody. I mean, there was a few guys maybe in school that hunted and stuff, but I remember when we went, that we never ran into other hunters. Now, granted, we were probably going during the week, so that helped. But to be able to go on hunts, I think that I'd like to think that now it's better, meaning there's so much more information that someone can pick and choose. There are things, we've even done a podcast talking about how you can go do it on a budget and things like that. I think a lot of what was going on back when I was growing up, we weren't thinking about it, or like you're saying, it wasn't even a thing. It wasn't a thing because there was no money to be a thing. That was number one. That was the driving force. If you don't have any money, no point in looking at it. I spent my first hunt club that I belonged to, or if that's what you call it, I can't remember how, but basically I joined a club in Virginia that they they leased ground. And there was 6,000 acres, but that included, some of it was for waterfowl guys, whatever. But it was $225 for the year, and then another $225 to join. And I can just tell you that the conversation that I had with my dad was not good. I mean, he was a year to spend $450 for what? To be able to hunt on private ground and not hunt public ground. And he was like, "You're an idiot. You should not be spending that money on that. That's a down payment on a truck at that time."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what that would equate to today. Would it be $2,500 now? And $2,500.
It ain't that long ago.
Oh,
you're probably looking at double, I bet.
Oh no, you find a lease out there where someone's going to pay $450, you think, for the year for 6,000
Not a lease.
access?
That was a hunt club was different than a lease.
Well, it was basically you got to lease.
No, it is totally different because you go get a hunt club right now for $50.
It depends on what you're getting out of the hunt club. If it's to shoot birds, yeah.
Yeah, the whole money argument, I think, is you can throw that one out the window for that day and age. Number one, it's relative to your age of where you're at in life. Number two, the economy today's day and age, that money might be worth a lot more now, but there ain't very much money going around for most people. This is like the worst economy we have had, well, since 2008. And the Gen Z, absolutely the worst any children generation or child generation has ever had worse off than their parents in history of America. So the money is not making it any easier on us. Besides, now a lot of us don't have the money to do some of this crap, but we also now just see it on social media everywhere, which makes you want to do it more, which maybe I think that if you guys heard about it more, you'd be wanting to do it more, of going out of state and going to do things. You just didn't hear about it as much as what you do now. But I'm curious as to if maybe we should have looked. Going out of state then, if you did have the money or the means to do it, was it a pain in the butt to get tags? Was it you could go to bordering states and it's not an issue? Or if you're going to go somewhere further, I feel as though I know that there was draws and everything back then, but I feel like it's gotten way more common that just about everywhere you want to go is some kind of draw.
And I can't speak to that because I didn't do any of that back then. I mean, I'm sure. What I can tell you though is just going back to when I start taking you and your brother to Nebraska to go turkey hunting, going over there not knowing a soul and just driving into Nebraska because I heard there was lots of turkeys. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a list that's probably got over 25 landowners that said yes.
Yep.
That I would, we didn't pay them a dime. They wanted the turkeys gone and there wasn't enough hunters. So you're more than welcome to hunt turkeys here.
And now you go back and it's,
I would probably be hard pressed to find one or two. Well, the other thing is though, but what we found too there was programs offered by the state where, because I couldn't believe it. The first time we pulled up, there's 25 toms. No lie. 25 different turkeys strutting in this 2 fields. You weren't with us on that trip. That was me, Jim, and Warren. And we pull up, and I'm like, man, we need to find out who owns this. Well, we go down the road, and there's one of these little boxes, right? And I'm like, oh, this might be public. Well, there's no more maps left. That someone had taken them all. But you could have signed in right then. Well, I'm trying to be on the up and up. I don't want to go somewhere we're not supposed to. It looks like the turkeys are behind where this box is, but we don't have a map. So we drive down the road because we did have like a main map from Nebraska, and it showed that way on the other side we could go over there. And sure enough, we drove all the way over there and we found a map. Those turkeys were where we could have hunted them. So no big deal, right? You just go back. Well, it ended up taking us 3 or 4 hours that they had time. So by that time, it starts to snow. And the turkeys quit doing anything. My point is, I had never seen a place that was basically public, because this was just open. If you just signed your name, you could go. That was good. Any place that I'd ever seen that was public was always getting pounded by other people. And I'm like, there's no way that all those turkeys could be right there and that be a place that we just sign in and go.
Yeah.
And no one's here chasing them. And we could have. And we did, but we were late. And so definitely access has changed, not for the better, and I think it's going to do nothing but get worse as far as being able to get the number of tags. And some of this stuff is, I don't know if it belongs in this podcast or not, but when you reintroduce a wolf, it affects the elk tags in all those states where you just reintroduce that wolf. Mm-hmm. And so that trickles back to the guy who lives in Pennsylvania that wants to go on an elk hunt. And the only time that I've ever seen something like that really spiral is several years ago, not 5 or 6, when we went to Montana. Warren was hunting then at that time, me, Warren, and Mom. And we went to a place and it was good. It was in Montana, and we each killed a bull that year. We go back the next year, and it's freaking littered with hunters. I mean, everywhere. We're like, what the heck? Did everyone watch our show or what's going on? Nope. What happened was grizzly bears killed someone in a certain drainage, and it became big news the week before we went out to go elk hunting. All those dudes that were bow hunting,
to the other spot,
they abandoned there to go to where we were, where there's no grizzlies.
Yeah.
And it was like a huge number of guys that were like, because it wasn't just one attack. One bear attacked one person and another bear somewhere else attacked another one, but it was enough that it made these guys go, as much as I want to kill an elk, I don't want to be fearful in the morning walking in to go elk hunting. And so they said, well, there's places in Montana that I can go that don't have that. I can still, maybe I won't see as many elk, but I can get away from these things. And they all moved into here. So that trickle effect became a freaking waterfall.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would agree. We're definitely towards the tail end of having that might be considered the good old days there for a little bit with the like your BLM stuff and where the landowners were incentivized to have. I know there's still programs out there that do that. It's just not very. It's a lot harder to get tags in most places. It's a lot harder to find places. The permission game, like everybody says, you can't do it anymore. Which is one of my biggest pet peeves because you can. It is harder. You just got to knock on a lot more doors. And the only thing that I will say that kind of sucks about that is when you do find the place that you get a yes, it's pretty rare for it to be like a one-off yes kind of thing where there's only a couple of you hunting there. Most of the time it's dang near like a public piece. But I think depending on where you're at, you probably have public that takes some of that pressure off as well. Iowa is not known for public land. I mean, I think it's 1%, and that's including parks and stuff. I mean, so 1% of all of Iowa can be hunted by the public. So it gets hammered pretty good. And then the amount of permission places,
but
it's hard to find. But then,
so what that means though is when you do find that permission, when someone says yes, and let's just say they say yes, and it's you and one other dude, you better bust your ass. You better do what I was doing 40 years ago to find that place to hunt
and then
to keep it. I mean, whether that's offering to work for the guy for free on some weekends to buying, gift card to Amazon or what, I mean, do something to hang on to that because it is becoming way more difficult to find.
Yeah.
And just treating people right, and then the other one now is there's no reason you can't meet the other guy that's hunting there, where maybe before it was a lot more difficult. You'd have to run into him there, but now you can find out who he is, and social media, you can talk to each other and say, hey man, I'm going to coordinate with you. I'm not telling you can't hunt today. And or maybe that's what you want to do. You guys, you hunt these days, I'll hunt these days, or I'll go this part of the farm, you take this part of the farm, or just, hey man, I've seen this deer. Have you seen him? Yep. And we both go about it and treat people like you want them to treat you, and hopefully it works out for one of you.
Yeah. It's nice when you can find guys that work with you like that you can work with both. Because I've had both.
Yep.
Where they will work with you, and then there's other ones that are just that you don't want to deal with at all.
The next thing I think is going to be, this is out of our control to some extent. But how is hunting perceived now by the general public as to how it was perceived in the Gen X era? Because
I can't speak to that. I can only speak to what I've seen the difference of now.
See, I think it was more accepted years ago, meaning it wasn't scrutinized to the extent, all the stuff that you just talked about, that people are posting it. Now the problem is so much of it is fake. So much of it is raw. I mean, what someone thinks it's funny to show something, and they build this thing that shows a deer being shot, and it's not doing us any favors at all, or the technology gives people this misconception. I can now shoot it a long ways away. And so because I can see them, they're clear. I know it's a big bull. I have this fancy bow that does this and it shoots this, or a rifle, and guys are taking 1,000-yard shots at deer Not saying that there aren't some people out there that can make 1,000-yard shot, but I guarantee you 1,000-yard shot, that animal has a chance to move.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
That kind of goes both. I would agree with you. I mean, going off what it sounds like back in the day, I don't know. I feel like it was pretty scrutinized then, too.
It's never been just like everyone likes it but you didn't have, we had the same kind of, well, let me put it this way. I remember when they first opened a park in Virginia when I was a kid to have whitetail deer hunting in the park to eliminate some of the deer. People came out against it, right? And it made the news, and they concreted themselves. They stood along the road and they poured a form of concrete, which was awesome because what the cops did was went in and jackhammered in between the people and then rolled them over to the side. And they were standing on the side of the road with their feet stuck in concrete and couldn't go anywhere. It was awesome. But I want to say when you saw something like that, there was as many people going, what are those dumbasses doing? Why would they do that to the hunter? As there was, you had almost like there was a group of people that were still on your side. And that's what I said when we first built raised hunting, is there's this whole 10-80-10 rule. 10% are hunters. You're never going to, that's all of us sitting in this room. That's probably everyone listening to this podcast. You're not going to change our mind. There's 10% that are anti-hunters that will never listen to this podcast, will never turn on the outdoor channel, will never go to a trade show, will never understand what it means for a guy to shoot an elk or a duck or whatever it is. They won't get it. But there's 80% that don't really give a damn one way or another. And that's what we needed to do. That's what we need to do. We need to pull some of them. We're not asking them to become hunters. We're asking them simply to understand where we're coming from so that when next time they walk into a voting booth to vote for a gun law or a ban on this or that we need more money for parks and recs and things like, they vote on our side and not with someone who's saying, absolutely not. We just need to reintroduce wolves and let it all handle itself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. 100%.
So anyhow, that I do feel like we had a bigger percentage of that 80% on our side in the 80s, when I was growing up. Then
I feel like now it's, I get kind of torn because sometimes I feel like, oh man, I think we're doing better because I don't see as much. I mean, for personal experience that even Dad would speak more in detail to, but like when we first came out in like 2010 to 2012, when we were first coming out with any of the shows or anything, the stuff that would get sent to us or said to us in a lot of different ways from anti-hunting groups and parties and people and stuff was disgusting. I mean, it was unreal how brutal and violent
threats
and
on our
nasty
family and lives and everything else.
And I don't see near the amount of that anymore. Now, I don't know if that's because there's so much hunting content out there now that they can't keep up with it, or if I don't know, because the anti-hunting has single-handedly ruined the trapping market. I mean, like the fur market has been mainly because of them. And maybe they feel as though they've won enough, but I feel like some days the perception of hunters is much more accepted and understood. And then there's other days I feel as though there's a lot of videos that are going viral and getting out there that makes us look like absolute shit. And the amount of comments and things that are in there make it so much worse because you have some people that are criticizing what's happening in the video, whether they're an anti-hunter or a hunter. And then you have other hunters that are just digging their heels in, justifying what brutal crap it is that they're doing on a video, thinking that it doesn't matter what other people think. So I think it kind of goes both ways. I guess with that being said, I think that as a whole, maybe it's just not talked as much, but I don't feel as though it's all that accepted, more accepted than what it would have been.
Well, I think if we were to go and talk to guys in different states, we would probably get different...
where you're at,
different, information back. Someone would say, because like on the East Coast, we have a good friend that lives in New Jersey and he's constantly battling different elements that come up there. However, you look at Florida that just instilled this bear hunt down there this year.
Florida has a bear hunt?
Yeah, they got a bear hunt. They actually killed some, and it was like how much money they generated and all this stuff, and it's like, man, so it's almost like started to go cyclical, like hunting was accepted more back here. Then we're like, maybe we're not going to do it. And the politicians are like, we're not touching that. We don't want to, we're just going to leave it the way it is and not let these guys do that. We're not going to let them run dogs. We're not going to let them bait. I mean, in Arkansas, you can bait bears, granted, they haven't gone to where you can bait them in the spring. And I think that's where they're going to need to go to get the bear numbers under control. But my point is here, Florida finally does this, something they've never done. And so there's things coming back around. And so maybe some of the politicians are getting more, maybe the hunters we're getting better and more polished in our delivery and what we're asking for, because in case you guys don't know it, emphatically, there's no argument. Nobody can make an argument. The hunter is the best conservation tool this planet has ever seen. We've proven it in all continents, everywhere. The moment that hunters pay to shoot those animals, they become better protected and taken care of because they're paying to restore them and everything else. The moment you take it away, you end up, poaching goes crazy, the black market goes real high, and now more stuff's being killed.
There's no funding for what they're doing for the conservation
Absolutely.
Or the land.
Hunting is the way you're going to preserve this. And it's proven over and over. So maybe our argument is starting to get through in some of the right places. But then you get the
Colorado freaking putting wolves back.
Yeah. And it's like, what are you guys thinking? We already seen that. And now, again, I don't know the numbers. I haven't checked in the last probably 2 years, I guess. But I know at one point it was roughly 18,000 elk that were Jackson Hole. That was your Yellowstone bull elk. And the number was too big. They thought they could hold about 9,000. That was part of their purpose behind putting wolves back in. We'll bring the numbers down. And they did. But they brought it down way less they didn't hit their 9,000 mark. They ended up down around 3,000 elk is all that were left. 15,000 of them were gone. I think that number has started to bounce back a little bit now. I don't know that for a fact. So
that reintroduction also was supposed to be, because that was way back.
Yes.
Was supposed to be, if I heard this right, was supposed to be like 100 wolves is what they
20 packs of 5
felt like they could handle across
3 states,
Colorado, Idaho, and
they were going to stay
Montana.
in the parks.
Yeah, or at least in those areas. Right. And by like year 2 or 3, it was like
50 packs of 20.
Yeah, they were like, we're over thousands all of a sudden, and our elk are That part is because of the blindness of the politicians. They don't live out there and see it. Which is what is somewhat surprising to me about the Colorado situation with, granted, I know that the amount of people that live in Colorado that were probably pushing for those things probably aren't native to Colorado. But the amount of them pushing for that, they should have been there to see the difference. You have two bordering states or close states that have dealt with the wolves significantly, and you guys are going to just happily bring it back. The logic there doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And we were wrong, by the way. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana that was the 3 that they reintroduced them to, thinking there would be 100, not Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely think that it's gotten worse, but my hope is that it's getting better. Slowly. We'll see. All right, we got 2 left, but maybe we
say maybe 1 because we're already over an hour.
All right. We'll leave the equipment one alone because I think you could do that as a whole podcast.
Yeah.
All right, so let's finish with this. How has the communication changed, hunting?
Is this the one you were talking about with social?
Yeah, that's the number one communicator now. That's the way everyone is.
I'm making sure you're not referring to like being able to text your friends. Yeah, I got a picture of a deer today or whatever.
No, I definitely think that the phone is interfering with hunting.
I would agree. How much is, I think social media has totally jacked with expectations.
That's probably a big
This
one.
is for, I mean, that's just for everybody in life, but social media in general for the sake of hunting too. It's the amount of people that I have talked to in the past 5-6 years that don't want to shoot something that they know that they'd be happy about because they see the amount of other things that people are shooting, and they don't even realize they're saying that when they say, well, I just haven't shot a buck in a few years. And I'm like, well, have you had opportunities? Yeah, but none of them are really big enough, you know? I'm like, have you shot any bucks? Like, have you had any experience with this or anything? And they may have shot one or something, and most of the time they're like, no, it's just, I know that if I hold out longer, let them grow, you know, that they'll do a lot better. I'm like, where are you hearing this from? Probably us is one of them. I mean, but what are you thinking to, like, if you're excited about it, just because everybody else on social media is doing something else doesn't mean you have to be doing the same thing. If they get pissy about you hunting the neighbors or something that they're trying to grow deer and you shot a 2-year-old, get over it. Like, if you're happy about it, that's what you should be doing. And so I think that social media has drastically jacked up the experience for a lot of people without them even knowing it, because they think that that's the right way to do it, because they have to follow what everybody else is doing, or they're going to get chastised for doing something different. Which, thank the Lord that I was raised with two parents that have very much encouraged us to march at your own beat, because I probably would fall to that because I'm young, I'm on social media and things as well. I'm going to do what I want to do and what makes me happy, not what the world is telling me should make me happy. So I think that side of communication has jacked it royally.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I look back, like I said, the communication that went on in the 80s, if you killed a deer, the only way that someone was going to know it, they're going to have to come to your house. They're going to have to see a picture that you printed.
And they're going to have to know somebody that knew somebody that knew you that shot it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you might, I'm trying to think if I ever did. I don't know that I ever did, because I didn't know anybody at any, the stores. You'd see they'd have a board like we have for our podcast listeners where you could, and so you'd walk in there and look at those.
We used to do that in Olney.
Did they have one there?
They had a little gas station that I would go in and get my Three Musketeer bar, and me and Warren would look at the pin board or whatever that would have some of the deer or mountain lions and stuff that people were killing in the area.
Yep. And so that's the only way that you were communicating with what was going on. And so, like I said, I don't know if that meant that we were hunting for a different reason, because, I mean, there was still some people hunting for food, meaning to actually feed their family. I was not. I mean, it wasn't like if I didn't kill a deer, we weren't going to eat that year. However, but it still wasn't about, I didn't care what anyone else thought. I wanted to kill the biggest deer I possibly could. I have a whole bunch of spikes. I've killed a button buck. I've shot forked horns and little basket rack bucks, because I was trying to work my way up trying to get to where, but then there was a time, maybe I was before my time, that I passed my first deer. I passed my first deer in Arkansas, thinking that, and it was kind of slash public, private. My uncle owned some ground that bordered up to public, and I passed a deer one time, and I was like, well, it was like, it killed. I'm telling the other firemen when I got back, I let this little 6-point go, what? I was like, well, I thought there was a bigger one in there, and I thought today might be the day that I would see him. That's the only way, if you only get a certain amount of tags, that you're going to be able to do that. I do think that there's a part of it that has helped, because so many people are managing and things like that here in Iowa, that someone can pass and see something better. There's some to that. But that goes into a whole nother realm of, like, where do you start your kids? Like you mentioned, marching at your own beat. My whole thing was, I don't want you guys to start way up on the ladder. I want you to start somewhere down here because at the time, at the age that you're at, the excitement level, what you're going to get out of it, it's the same. Mm-hmm. It could be giant or it could be small, but it's all way up here. And so just don't go here, because it's going to be harder to get back there again.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, so when it comes to the communication, I think I love the fact that you can send a picture to a friend, of what you've seen, a trail camera photo, whatever. I enjoy it as much as anyone else. But I definitely think that it has hurt what it means. It's just so common now. It's just so easy to get.
Yeah.
That it doesn't mean as much. Like I said, if you went to like you guys talking about in Olney, if I went into a store and there was a board with a bunch of pictures, I would stand there for a long time, looking at everyone in detail. Now I'm walking right by, I go out to my truck, and as I'm driving down the road, they killed a.
You're not supposed to be on your phone when you're driving, David.
Well, you're driving. I'm just on the passenger side.
Yeah, that's fair. We used to sit there at that little, and half the time it was the same photo.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't that many people going into that store, but we would sit there. I don't even know I think we'd drive the 4-wheeler down there before we went home. And that was, I just remember me and him would stand there I'm sure the cashier or whatever was like, what are you guys doing? Because we'd walk in every single time and go look at the same pictures. But it's a good memory.
All right. Well, I knew that we weren't going to solve anything today.
Nope.
But I guarantee you that someone's going to write in and say, you guys didn't talk about this, or I totally disagree with you, David, or I totally disagree with you, Easton. Man, I just think that I do hope that what we're doing, I hope my whole goal for raised hunting, whether that's through Sense, whether that's through the television show, whether that's through this podcast, whether that's just you meeting us, I do hope that we're having an effect on hunting, that someone will look back one day and say raised hunting made a difference, a positive difference. I mean, that's my whole thing, is because I don't want to say make a difference, because there's been some hellacious professional parts of this that have had really bad setbacks. And because that's the problem, is you can do everything right for a whole lot, and then you make one mistake and it'll tear everything that you built down, and we don't want to do that. So,
yep.
I just hope that we're going to leave. I mean, what I tell everyone, I hope that I'm leaving hunting better than I found it.
I would agree with that.
That's the
100%.
goal. So, all right. Well, did you have a wacky fact?
That ain't my job.
I know.
That's Warren's job.
The wacky factor.
Nope. Wacky fact, I'm pretty sure the furnace guy came, though.
Did he come?
It feels like the air is heat. Yeah. So we talked long enough to get the, yeah.
Okay, so the wacky fact is, what did we start without today when we started this podcast? Easton will give you something if you answer it correctly. I don't know what that is.
Okay, yeah. All right, we're out. See you next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Raised Hunting Podcast. We will be talking sheds next week, and you'll want to tune in, and you're going to want to see this one because he's bringing stuff for people to see.
Send us questions if you got them.
Peace out.